Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, thank you so much for joining me. Look, I've got to say, it's finally happened. The world is healing. Order is restored already. Donald Trump will issue an order ending federal diversity, equity and inclusion programs. Hallelujah, finally. Now, this order will instruct senior officials in the White House, Office of Management and Budget and the Office of Personnel Management to determine what programs need to be gutted. Josh, it's finally going to be merit all the way, not based on race, not based on gender, but on merit. Has the post-woke world begun, do you think?
It's definitely beginning. You know, this actually goes back to the final year of the first Trump administration. So in the very final months of the first Trump administration, my friend Chris Rufo was working really hard to get DEI banned in the federal government. And now here we are right out of the gate, and we're doing it literally on day one. And it's not just DEI that's being banned in the federal government. It's also gender ideology. It's also the transgender agenda. That was a separate executive order that was implemented earlier today as well. The federal government of the United States now stands by the policy that there are two and precisely two genders. There is male and there is female, and that is it. So we are really seeing the prudential use of government power to fight back against the woke agenda there. And it's a beautiful sight to behold there. I mean, it's hard to keep up, frankly, with all the executive orders that are coming through there, whether it's immigration, whether it's energy, whether it's Trump withdrawing from the WHO, the World Health Organization there, putting American forces on the southern and potentially even the northern border with Canada. But the point is that this is morning in America again. As Ronald Reagan would have said there, it is a joyous day. I was grinning ear to ear watching this inauguration, watching him sign these executive orders. The thing about Donald Trump also, I have to say there, he's just such a funny, entertaining person there. I've been watching him on television here basically all day, grinning ear to ear. I miss this free daily Trump entertainment as well. I have to say that as well.
Oh, look, and more to come. I completely agree. And I just want to pick you up on what you mentioned there, that Donald Trump has declared that the US will only recognise two genders, male and female. This is what he said.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Josh, this would have been virtually unthinkable years ago. People say, no, you can't say that because it's offensive, you're a bigot, you can't do that, can't say that. What does it say about where we are now in the world?
Donald Trump understands something very important that a lot of other Republican politicians here in the U.S. do not understand. And let me explain what that is. So there's been a debate on the American right for a very long time as to the relationship between culture and politics. So for instance, the late, great Andrew Breitbart, the founder of the website Breitbart, famously said that culture is upstream of politics. Basically, that if you want to control politics, it's downstream of culture. You have to control the culture first. I have always thought that that's a little too cute by half, because culture and politics operate in a two-way street where the culture can affect the politics. Politics can also affect the culture. I think Donald Trump understands that. He intuits that. He understands that. He understands that when it comes to civilizational issues, questions of the human person, of human anthropology, such as male and female, God created them, you have to choose. You actually cannot take the so-called neutral way out. You actually have to make a decision and put a thumb on the scale here. This is an example of making that decision, of having the courage to actually do that and to lead by political example, and the culture ultimately, God willing, here in America will follow as well there. So see, he's a little older. He's one of the older American presidents, not as old as the previous guy, but he nonetheless, I think, in terms of his understanding between culture and politics, is actually very new and edgy in a way that a lot of the Republican old guard still resist to this day. That's their loss in his game, though.
Absolutely. I think that's a really interesting observation. You're spot on. Now, look, let's talk about transparency. Trump has vowed to release long classified government records on the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy. This is what he said.
We are going to make public remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Josh, so he's vowing to restore government transparency. Why is this so important in this administration?
Well, it's important because Americans' trust in government right now is at an all-time historic low. I mean, Americans have not distrusted the government this much probably in the entire history of modern American public polling. I mean, I couldn't even tell you when the last time I think it would be even close to this. Maybe the Jimmy Carter years of stagflation and the Iran hostage crisis, probably even including that, though. So if you want to try to get the American people back on your side, well, the easiest way to do that is with good policy, to get the economy humming again, to seal the southern border with Mexico there, to get peace on the global stage in the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, so forth there. Another fairly easy way is to show that you stand with the people. So when the American people have long-standing questions that they're not getting clear answers from the government, give them the answers. Again, unless there is a truly, truly, truly compelling national security reason there. But frankly, when it comes to something like the JFK assassination, it's been 60 years. I mean, whatever national security implications there might have been at the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis with the Soviet Union, you know, that's literally decades in the past at this point there. So why not? I say, why not? Heck, I say at this point, I want to know whether there are aliens at Area 51 out in Nevada, outside of Las Vegas. I suspect probably not, but while we're going down this rabbit hole, why not? Keep it coming. There's a lot of questions out there. I suspect Donald Trump's going to give us a lot of fun answers.
Oh, look, wouldn't we want to know the answers to that? I completely agree. You're going down the rabbit hole, so I think just keep going, strike while the iron is hot. Now, I thought this was particularly interesting, though unsurprising. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were booed entering the Capitol for the inauguration. Have a look at this.
The President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Harris.
Well, Josh, look, they're all MAGA supporters there. They were never going to give them a rousing reception. But it brings into question, because Biden leaves office with historically low approval ratings. Kamala's still dancing about like a moron with interchanging accents. It seems like America really has had enough of those two.
You know, I think it's difficult to put into words just the utter shambles that the Democratic Party is currently in here. First of all, they all hate each other. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Bill and Hillary Clinton, the titans of the current Democratic Party, throw in Chuck Schumer, I guess, as well there. They actually genuinely cannot stand each other. A lot of this gets back to the major divide this past summer as to whether or not to kick Joe Biden off the ticket and put in Kamala Harris. A lot of these simmering divides to this day have not fully healed from that. But more to the point, their agenda, especially the post-2008, post-Barack Obama, post-woke intersectional identity politics coalition of the aggrieved interest coalition, it's all been emphatically rejected. One, because it's totally divisive there. Barack Obama and Joe Biden claim to be uniters. All they did actually was pit one Americans against the other, whether it was white versus black, whether it was the vaccinated against the unvaccinated, team red versus team blue, you name it there. They have been massive, massive dividers. And more to the point, their policy has just been utterly catastrophic, whether it is inflation, whether it is the economy, whether it is crime in America's urban corridors, people getting pushed, God forbid, on the subway cars in New York City, stories like the Daniel Penny story there, the woman lit on fire, foreign policy, I mean, the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, China, looking like they're going to invade Taiwan every day. It's basically a hotspot all across the world there. They have failed, and they have failed catastrophically. And the best part is, as someone personally who wishes the Democrats nothing but harm, the best part is I have no idea where they go from here. I genuinely am glad that that is not my problem, because I actually do not know what the answer is. But I suspect that they're going to be in the political wilderness for some time now, because there's no clear and easy answer as to how they possibly get themselves back to a place of respectability without somehow sacrificing their far left base as well. I don't know how you walk that tightrope. I'm not sure that they know how to do it either.
Well, I mean, they did it to themselves, didn't they? I mean, this is all that their own doing. They're in this mess because that they were too slow to change the candidates. So, look, we'll see what happens over the next few years. Now, in his last act as president, Joe Biden issued sweeping preemptive pardons for his entire family, as well as former COVID advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci, retired General Mark Milley, and members of the January 6th committee to, quote, shield them from politically motivated prosecutions under the Trump administration. Josh, look, I don't know. I think this was unsurprising. He was always going to do it. But what do you make of this at the 11th hour to go and issue these pardons?
It's just truly shameful stuff. You know, Joe Biden told us time and time again that the reason that you had to vote for Joe Biden, and then after the Democrats pulled their bloodless coup, that you had to vote for Kamala Harris, he said time and time again, you got to vote for Team Blue. You got to vote for the Democrats, because the other guy, Donald Trump, he's a Hitler, fascist, Nazi there who's going to blow up the Constitution. He hates norms. How many times over the past 4 years have we been lectured time and time again about how the January 6th guy is a great perpetrator when it comes to desecrating American norms there? And then you fast forward to the past few months here, especially since the election in November. How many norms is Joe Biden going to blow up in flames on his way out the door here? I mean, it's basically like he's taken a match. He's taken an entire reservoir of gasoline and just poured an entire box of matches on fire into this gasoline on the way out there. Literally on Friday, he tweeted that he was recognizing a new constitutional amendment. The National Archives here was like, dude, you can't do that. That's not how the constitutional process works. These pardons at the last hour, preemptively pardoning the Biden family, his brother Jim Biden, 5 or 6 family members there, 15 minutes before Donald Trump was to put his hand on the Bible and take the oath of office. I can't believe this. I mean, it makes America look so patently silly, so patently tribal, and frankly, so patently third world. I cannot wait for this guy to get out of office, to get the heck off my television screen. Frankly, I think it's going to be a very long time until we hear from him again. It actually wouldn't shock me, frankly, if we don't hear from him again until his funeral.
Look, I think we've all been thinking the same. Let's be realistic. And I agree, it was completely dodgy, totally dodgy of him 15 minutes before that inauguration. Now, look, let's move on, because the family of Doron Steinbrecher, one of the 3 Israeli hostages freed from Hamas this week, has thanked Donald Trump for her release, saying, "We also extend our gratitude to Trump for his significant involvement and support, which means so much to us." Here was Donald Trump talking about the situation in the Middle East.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
Josh, how much of this deal and what's going on right now in the Middle East can be put down to Donald Trump's influence and his very strong words leading up to the inauguration?
Well, I think that the recent ceasefire hostage deal is overwhelmingly due to Donald Trump and his new Middle East special envoy, Steve Witkoff. I mean, you look at the fact that Joe Biden, Tony Blinken, and Brett McGurk and that whole national security team, if you can even call it that, they tried for a very long time, literally over a year, to get a second deal since the initial one in November 2023. They couldn't do it. Trump and Witkoff got involved in a matter of days. It was done. So I think they are overwhelmingly responsible for this particular deal. I guess, though, if I'm being honest, I would sound the note of caution. I'm not frankly in love with this deal, to be very honest with you. It's amazing that these hostages are released. Obviously, if I were one of the family members, I would want to do everything possible. That goes without saying there. I worry, though, about the incentives that this sends. When you are trading hundreds, thousands, frankly, of the most hardened jihadist terrorists out there for just a few dozen hostages there, what incentives does that send about trying to reward terrorism, trying to incentivize further hostage taking there? Ultimately, it's going to be a push come to shove situation. Is Prime Minister Netanyahu going to have the political capital and the political will to send the IDF back into Gaza to finish the job there? Because I want to be very clear about this. Unless and until Hamas is decapitated and fully destroyed as a military and political organization in Gaza, unless and until that happens, Israel will have lost this war. That's a very, very, very important thing to remember. I believe Donald Trump understands that there, but we'll find out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we certainly will. We'll see how this one plays out. Josh Hammer, good to catch up. Thanks very much for joining me on the show this evening.
Thank you so much.